Hello and welcome to Soul Family Chat, where we envisage new possibilities for a new Earth. I'm Guy, your host, and I'm delighted today to be with Nayalla. Welcome, Nayalla.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have Nayalla back on the show. Nayalla is a soul coach and energy healer, and she's based in the United Kingdom, in the great north of the United Kingdom. Come from a very similar geographic geographical area to Nayalla, so we have that in common. That's great. So Nayalla's going to tell us today about an ebook that she's created, and also a series of videos on how to deal with the forced cost of living crisis. Nayalla, can you tell me what was the inspiration for this book?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've hit hard times myself financially, so I know what it's like when you're backed into a corner and you feel like you've got no option. And a lot of more people are feeling like that, really, that everything is up against them. They've been asked the impossible, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of help. There seems to be a lot of people saying what's happening, and that there is a crisis, but they're not saying how people can help themselves through it. And as somebody who works with people, not only coaching and energy healing, but with their mental health, because that's very much connected to spirituality, I'm noticing there's a mental health crisis that's happening, and it's been going on for a long time. A lot of people are noticing that things are happening right now, but in fact, this has been going on for a long, long time. There's been a lot of people that have been in poverty. There's been a lot of people that have been dealing with the cost of living crisis long before this year or the last few years. This has been going on for a long, long time. It's just more people are affected. And like I said, because the cost of living is affecting people mentally, we're seeing a knock on effect in people's health, in their mental health, in the way that they're living, in how they are coping with life in general. And so I wanted to put everything together in one place, knowing that when you're stressed and when things are going above your head, you can't take in the information. I thought it would be good to have all the different sections that are affected by the cost of living crisis and a list of charities so that it's all there for somebody. They don't have to start searching for all these places in lots of different areas and feeling overwhelmed and feeling like they can't take in that information. It's all there in the ebook. So whatever their life is affected by, say if it's the clothes, or it is mental health, or it's threat of eviction and homelessness, or whatever it is, food, they can look at that section and not only see why we're in this predicament, but also the energetics of it and how to maybe help themselves as well. Because I think it's so important to pour in empowerment, because we're not really seeing a lot of that from, excuse me, from the governments, or even a lot of charities. There doesn't seem to be this emphasis on empowerment and how you can help yourselves through it. Because what I've noticed in Newcastle, and also I've been watching documentaries and other things to try and get a taste of how best to help people, really, is people, they don't see a way forward. They don't see a way out of this. They don't see a glimmer of light. They don't, it's like there's just doom and gloom. And what I really want to help people understand is I've been there. I've been at rock bottom. I know what it's like when you feel like all the walls are coming closing in and you don't feel a way out, but there is. And so yeah, it's pretty much the ebook in a short little bubble there, is just to help people and show them that there is a way forward. And I think the best way out of a crisis is to highlight why we're here, not to victim blame, but to understand why we're here as a society, the world, and also as an individual, and what we can do out of it, and very much how we can learn through it as well. Learning through it is the best way to empower ourselves. That's what I've found anyway. And so yeah, there's helpful suggestions, there's signposting, and like I said, there's just the energetics and the spiritual side of it as well, and how to coach yourself through it.
Well, that's wonderful, and thank you for the work that you're doing and for doing this. And I totally understand that you've been through some of those experiences, and you survived and then thrived, and you're able to pass that on. I'd like to point out, I'm sure the book has lots of practical information that's relevant to people anywhere, whether they're in the UK or not. But there's also some UK specific information. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I thought it would be best for me just to being in the UK to highlight the statistics from the UK and also UK charities as well, because otherwise it would be a very thick book if I went and did all the statistics from all the countries and all the charities. But you can easily translate what is happening in each section because I feel whatever country you're at, if you're dealing with poverty or you're dealing with the cost of living crisis, all that is in there is relevant to whatever country you're in. But yeah, the statistics and the charities are UK based.
Okay, okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit, just from your perspective, what's happening in the UK right now? Because I think I'm in the United States, and it varies here a little bit by region, and people are harder hit in different regions where, for example, gas prices, uh, gas, petrol, it was much more expensive, like, for example, in the West Coast of the US. And I would say that, I mean, people are noticing rising costs here. Where I'm in the Midwest, in Iowa, I mean, obviously the food prices going up, some energy, but it's not dramatic. Like, it's not, people are, I think people are in the know, kind of know it's coming, but it's not like in our face right now that it's really, people are feeling that really impacted. And I'd be happy for somebody to correct me if that's incorrect. So can you tell me what's happening in the UK right now?
Yeah, it's in sections basically. I mean, you've got people that, like I mentioned before, are already in poverty. They're already at crisis point. They're in a dire place, and like I said, this isn't new. They've been there for a while. Then we've got a section that are starting to feel the pinch, starting to understand that something is not right here, and then there's others that are just absolutely fine. What I mentioned to you last time that we spoke about this topic is that I feel that the middle class, they're starting to feel the pinch more, so we're hearing more about it, which is a little bit unfortunate because well, it's fortunate and unfortunate. I think there's people speaking about something that really should have had a voice a long time ago. So we're I would say the main point of contention is the heating bills and the energy bills. Everybody's feeling that, and we're at a point now where there's people that are in houses that they're freezing. They're not appropriate to live in through the winter, yet they don't have a choice because they can't afford to put on the heating, and they've got a choice now of whether to heat or eat. And like I said, a lot of people have been there for a long time. This is not new. This is not the first winter where people are made to feel that they have the choice of whether to heat or eat. This has been going on for a while. It's just because we've got this rocket prices of energy and heating bills, people are feeling it more. And now, obviously, when they're going shopping, you're noticing when you're doing your shopping that food's going up as well. So there's people realizing that, hang on a minute, I'm not even getting the choice of heating or eating. I can't do either. And it's scary. It's a really scary place to be, especially if you're supporting family, if you're supporting young children. I mean, we know children grow very fast and they eat a lot. And if you're feeling like you can't put food on their table, you can't keep up with the way they're growing, so new clothes and such, you're given an impossible task. And that's why it's affecting people's mental health, because what are you supposed to do if you feel like you've got no options? And I'm really upset to find out, because I've been sharing that there's food banks, and now just the last few weeks watching a documentary, I found out that one of the food banks, you have to be eligible to go to them, And then if you use it so often, the most vulnerable people that have got children, they're then flagged that they can't afford to feed their children. So then there's a chance that their children will be taken off them. So not only are they stressing about paying the bills, they're then stressing about their families being split up, which is absolutely disgusting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems part of the whole control agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting that in the Western world, we're facing things that, I mean, for example, you were saying that, a certain level of society in the UK has been facing this for a long time, but now it's expanded up into the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like the Western world, we're starting to experience things that the rest of the world has experienced for a long time. And I've given this statistic before, approximately two-thirds of the world lives on less than uh, uh, $2 a day. That's the, per, uh, that's the individual income per capita kind of thing. And also in other parts of the world, censorship, lack of free speech, getting in prison for speaking against the government and things like that are very common.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't been common here. But actually, those things are starting to come in here now. I mean, there's massive censorship now. Anybody that's awake will realize there's massive censorship um, going on. I mean, they're not putting people in prison en masse yet, but there's other ways that they're silencing people. And so then, of course, hyperinflation, which people in like somewhere like Argentina, for example, have experienced this before. So a lot of these things are very new in the Western world, and I appreciate that you are educating and helping people. And I think people are a little bit. I mean, some naivety actually in the Western world because they've been sort of taken care of to a certain extent by the society, by the government, while the government's in relationship with other countries, other parts of the world, which they're completely exploiting, to
Mm-hmm.
sort of our advantage. So it's all kind of coming home to roost right now, and it's part of the whole sort of global transition I think that we're going through. So it's great that you're doing this. I don't really have to give the whole book away like on the show here, but can you tell us some things that are in the book or some themes and different things that people could learn from the book?
Yeah, so with each section, so I've got a whole list. I've got food and water, heating, lighting, um, medical needs. I've got threat of eviction and homelessness, so much civil unrest, sanitation. And with each section, I go into the energetics of it. So let's say heating as an example, as it's a big one right now, as most of us are going through um, the winter on our side of the world. So heating is a big deal. So if you think about how it feels to be warm, you you feel good, you feel relaxed, you feel loved, you feel supported. So the opposite of that is happening to a lot of people where they don't feel supported, they don't feel loved. Basically, it's like the statement left out in the cold. And that's the whole energetics of it. A lot of society, a section of society in particular, has been feeling left out in the cold. And so whatever you feel energetically, you see it at some point in the world. You see it playing out in the world. So either in your individual life, if you feel like you've been left out in the cold, you're going to see that somewhere showing up in your life. If you feel like that as a section of society, that section of society is going to experience that in some way in their life. And like I said, that's what we're seeing. So for generations in my country, especially where I'm at right now, from the 80s, maybe even before then, definitely from the 80s, there was big things happened and they felt left out in the cold. And we're seeing that now playing out in the physical field, so to speak, in the physical arena, where people are now left out in the cold. they're not able to heat their homes. This winter, they're going to be in homes that are cold. Um, we're seeing people out on the street that are cold. So, like I said, it's just the energetics of it. Everything that there is up in the energy, so in the ether. You, this is something that I do. I'm very good at feeling in the ether, feeling the energetics, and that then I can pull it down and know that at some point you're going to see it in the real world. And like I said, this is what is happening. So a lot of the world has had that in their energy field, and now they're seeing it physically. So we can clean that up, we can heal that. Now we know that there's a part of us that feels left out in the cold. We go to that part of us and we heal it. And so we bring love into it, that we are loved, we are supported, because the divine loves us. You know, the universe is supporting us. A lot of us have been blinkered as well. So we feel that there is lack. We've got this lack mentality. So you might go into the shops and you'll see shelves that are bare. You might feel like you can't afford your energy bills, but there's always other ways. You know, it's like we look in one way, but we're so blinded to the rest, and then we think that there's no solutions and there's no options. So again, it's just by taking ourselves from looking there and looking all around us and seeing other ways, other options, getting creative about things.
Wonderful. Yeah. As it is what you were saying about England, about the UK. I mean, I grew up in the 70s in the north of England, and we'd already start to see the sort of devastation from the decline of sort of industrial manufacturing. And the view in America, maybe the northeast of England, is it's kind of similar, maybe economically, socially, more to like the Rust Belt in America. And I love the photos of the photographer from Newcastle, the late Trish Murta, who photographed particularly the children in Newcastle after after all the mines were closed in the northeast, and there was a lot of unemployment, a lot of youth unemployment. So, like you said, these things have been there before, and now they've been exacerbated. And it's great that you're kind of addressing this on an energetic level. Can you give us a few? Let's talk about food, for example. Can you give us a few tips on food? And then we'll also we're going to I'll put in the description where to get the book, and I'm definitely going to get the book this week, so I'll be
Yeah,
up on
sure.
everything.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, and I've said this in every section in the book as well, I think it's so easy for somebody not in the same place to come across as maybe patronizing a little bit. So I've tried to give suggestions from all places. So I mean, obviously, the first thing you need to think about is budgeting. So you need to think about, or putting down on paper at least, what you're bringing in, um, all your expenses and all your income. Now, this is what is happening in the UK, is that that amount of money that you have for food, it's getting squeezed smaller and smaller and smaller. So you need to think about what you can bring in that's going to be nutritious and is going to fill you up as well as cheap. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that the best way through this is processed foods and, you know, just grabbing anything they can because it's cheap. I wouldn't suggest doing that. I mean, I know it's sometimes you think that's what you have to do, but you need to think about what foods you're going to bring into your body to survive this winter. So that that is the crucial thing. Obviously, if you can't afford anything, you're just going to have to take what you can. Um, and it's hard because there's like this mentality, but at the same time I'm always trying to say, but there is other ways, there is other options. I've been there myself, thinking I don't know how I'm gonna buy the shopping this week, and I've meditated and I've done an abundance meditation, and then afterwards I've gone for a walk and I've gone a different way, and I found a fruit tree with apples on it, and I picked some apples, and then it made me realize I'd been looking that way and when I could have been looking all around me. So
Mhm.
nature provides us with things. And I know what you were saying before about other countries, they've been through this, but a lot of countries, they have an abundance of vegetables and fruits growing. The UK isn't as abundant in that way. So whereas a lot of like tropical islands and places like that, they can just go, and even places in America, there's mangoes growing and things you can just go and pick. The UK is not quite so lucky, but we do have fruit trees growing, and there is other things that you can get. We've got mushrooms, so you can go and forage and get mushrooms and wild herbs, and these other things. So you can mix and match. You can go out shopping and buy some things that you need from the shop, and then you can go foraging. I also suggest buying in bulk if you can as well. That really helps. It's a lot cheaper to buy in bulk than it is to buy little packets of things when you go shopping, and it's just changing how you shop and where you shop as well. When I was out with my friend at the weekend, she was saying that she goes to this fruit and veg place to get a fruit and veg because it's a lot cheaper than the supermarkets. But she's noticed grapes. She highlighted grapes. Her little daughter likes, so for one punnet of grapes, it was normally like 120, and now it's over £2. So even there, she's noticed a big up in price. So it's thinking about what you can get that is going to bulk things out, and that's where a lot of people they're stuck because they're so used to just getting certain things and not home cooking anymore. Home cooking doesn't seem to be a thing a lot of people do anymore, so I would go back and home cook, and then people are saying to me, yeah, that's fine, but now people can't afford to cook at home. So, like, I understand that there's a section of people that can't do that now. So, then I would say, well, try and get connected with people that you can use maybe their kitchen, or think about where you work. Could you cook at work? Is it possible to do that? There's ways around it. It's just getting creative and thinking about it. And it is unfortunate we're in this situation where we can't just be at home cooking a meal. It seems like that's just what you do, but not anymore. It's also outside, you can start a fire outside in a safe way. You can use a barbecue. There's other ways. There's stoves you can actually make outside. Get some stones and build yourself a stove outside. There's ways around it. It's just like I said, if you are just watching the news all the time and the news is just telling you this is going up and this is going up and inflation is this amount, you it does something to your brain. It does something to you mentally where you just close down. So you have to keep that spark alive. You have to keep that creativity alive. You have to keep thinking, outside the box, and that's the way to get through this.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the cooking at home. I mean, I think I made a big shift during the thing that the media refers to as the pandemic. That obviously started to cook at home because the restaurants were closed and so forth. A friend gifted me an electronic pressure cooker uh, called Instant Pot here. That's one brand, but other companies that make them Instant Pot. And I'm primarily vegetarian anyway, so sort of rice and beans or Indian kind of dal and things like that. It's very quick. That's something people can invest in actually because you actually don't need an instant pot just plugs in. So if you've
Mhm.
still got electricity, you can cook an instant pot. You can do a lot of things in there. It's very quick. It's very easy. Somebody, yeah,
You
somebody,
have
yeah. Go
sorry,
ahead.
that just reminded me when you were saying that. There's something, I can't remember the name of it now. I think it's called a hay bag. I did include it in the ebook, but I haven't actually used it myself. It's something they used in the past where they would get a pot and obviously boil it up so it's warm, put the lentils in and the vegetables, and then because it's called a hay bag, obviously hay would be or straw would be stacked
Hmm.
around it, all around it to insulate and keep it warm. You can do the same now with towels. So if you've got like a stew pot, something like that, put the boiling water in, or even start it up on the hob if you're able to do that, or just boil the water, put it in, put your lentils in, put your veg in, and then wrap it with towels, put it in a box, and leave it there for the day. And that should cook. It should soften the
Well,
lentils, soften the veg. That's no electric at all. Also, there is what are they called now as well? They might have a special name, but I'm just going to call them solar cookers. Maybe not so good in this country because we don't have a lot of sun in the winter months, but maybe something to invest in the summer. Again, same thing. You get the stew pot and you put it in it. It's like a reflective type of thing all around it. Gets the heat from the sun and cooks it that way. So there is alternatives. You don't have to have the electric. And like I said, again, it's just getting creative. It's thinking outside of the box.
yeah, sure. Some of my friends used to do something called a thermos lunch, where it was a kind of an Ayurvedic thing with like the Indian dal and rice and spices and a few veg, and then they put hot water, boiled hot water into the thermos. And I guess just over, a few hours, you make it in the morning, and then over a few hours by lunch, it just cooks from the heat in. So there's lots of solutions.
Mhm.
Um, Lots of solutions like that. Yeah, it's true. Like if we lose electricity, then I'll have to think of some other ways because I'm kind of addicted to my instant pot. Somebody posted a meme on one of the social media platforms a few months ago, and it was a little chart like how to make soups, and it was really great. So the one column it said um, beans, and and then it listed all different types of beans, and said take 1 cup of beans, and then the second column it said grains, and it listed whole different types of grains, and then it suggested, I don't know, 1/2 cup of grain, and then in the third column it said pick 3 vegetables, and it listed a bunch of vegetables, and then in the fourth column it just listed some spices. And I've been playing around with that. I got some beans that I'm not so fond of. I don't eat the black beans so much, or kidney beans and things like that. But I had some that sort of in my store, in my pantry. But I've been making soups just using that formula. I mean, you
Mhm.
could cook them on the stove, but I do it in the electronic pressure cooker. And they're really simple and really nutritious because you've got grains and protein and vegetables, and it's really cheap. That's a really cheap lunch or dinner, especially if the grains and beans are being bought bulk. Um,
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm glad you spoke about lentils because I think lentils is very much unappreciated and overlooked, but it's absolutely amazing. You can get them cheap, they're easy to cook, and they're full of nutrients, protein. They're really good for you.
yeah, and so you can get them bulk and the
Hmm.
grains. Myself and a few friends, we've been buying sort of 25-pound bags of rice from the discount warehouse store here in America that everybody uses is Costco, one of the big ones. And so, I mean, it's just really, really cheap when you buy that amount. And yeah, just the lentils and rice and carrots and potatoes are pretty inexpensive. And then
Hmm.
it makes a really good meal. It's kind of interesting actually is that some of the solutions that save money, cheaper, are actually healthier.
Yeah.
I mean, I buy very little packaged food now, and I noticed like the difference. Like, I mean, $20 of packaged food hardly gets me anything, but $20 of some vegetables, rice, and lentils and things like that um, probably goes about 3 times. 3 or 4 times further than the packaged stuff. So a lot of it, I guess, is shifting away from convenience. So yeah, that's great. So what about heating? I don't expect you to have all the answers to all of this, but what about heating? And that's obviously a big one in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, insulating the home is a really good one. There is ways of doing that, really old-fashioned, just draft excluders, making sure all the drafts are sealed up. And what I would massively promote, and I know a few other people are speaking about in the UK, which I think is absolutely amazing, is think about heating the human rather than the house, because you can waste a lot of money and a lot of energy trying to keep a house warm, when in actual fact you're better off just trying to keep the human warm. So what can you do to keep yourself warm? I mean, think about where you lose heat the most: your head, your hands, your feet. So you need to make sure that they're warm. um, that I think is more important than anything else, and that will help people with their energy bills as well, as soon as they shift from thinking about heating the human rather than the home. So also think about where you're going to be spending the most time and focus on maybe just that one room. If things have got really bad, move into that room, live, like, sleep there and live there. So use your living room or your bedroom, whatever's warmest, and camp out there. um Survival, if you have to, if you've got a tent small enough, I would put a tent up in the living room, and I would go in the tent and live in the tent through the winter months. Um, there is things you can do, such as putting curtains over doors as well. Um, and again, thinking about thermal, make those curtains thicker.
Mm-hmm.
Cover your windows. I've got something that I got for camping. It's like bubble wrap, but it's reflective as well. I would put that on your windows, and that's going to help to insulate the room as well.
Sure, yeah. I hear people put plastic in the old houses. They put plastic all over
Hmm.
the windows to seal it, stop the air coming in. What about sleeping bags? I mean, sleeping bags are really good for like an emergency, right? Like you, so I mean, where I live is that you can, like, if we didn't have heat for, I don't know how long it takes, maybe 24 hours. I mean, you can die here. So it's probably colder than where you are. So I mean, I do have like a sleeping bag in the house,
Hmm.
and that would keep me alive.
Yeah, definitely use sleeping bags, and also layer up as well. Me and my daughter and my mum got one as well. We've got oversized hoodies that are like Sherpa material. We put them over
Mhm.
our clothes as well, and that's the way of covering your head. When I lived in Scotland, it was really cold there. It was like Highlands of Scotland, and it got to -18 in the winter. In the farmhouse, we had one coal fire in the living room, and we had a Rayburn to cook on in the kitchen. Upstairs was freezing. We had to wear more clothes to go to bed than we did through the
Sure,
day. And some days we would wake up and the condensation on the inside of the windows was frozen. So I know what it's like to live in those conditions.
sure,
Um,
yeah.
it is so important just to think about keeping yourself warm. Um, and like I said, forget about trying to heat the house. If you're in that position where you can't, don't think about how you can keep you warm. Hot water bottles as well. Hot water bottles are really good.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people are saying electric blankets, but then you need to think about when you don't have the electric, what you're going to do.
Mhm.
So just use as much alternatives as you can, because then you're prepared for whatever life throws at you. So electric when you got electric, but what you're going to do when you don't have electric, you need to be prepared for that as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's good. Thanks for all these wonderful suggestions, and I really encourage everybody to download um, Nayalla's book, and it's available on Etsy and Amazon. That's correct, and we'll
Yeah.
we'll put the links in the description, and I think it's available for a small donation. How much is the book?
It's £7.19. I don't want it. I don't want money to be a barrier for those that really need it, so I've kept it really cheap. It's also still available for free on my website as well. And what I've said is, if it ends up where it's costing everywhere and you can't afford it, reach out to me and let me know, and I'll give you that section that you need for free, or the whole of the ebook for free. Just as long as you're not messing me around, because obviously you know your own situation. You know if you can afford it or not. And I've just, as a highlighter, I've said, if you can afford takeaway coffee a few times a week, you can afford my ebook.
Wonderful.
I just
And
wanted to say something else. Sorry,
yeah,
Guy.
sure.
What I'm really noticing as well in the cost of living crisis is, it seems to be about education as well. A lot of people haven't been educated in certain things, or they haven't had the life experience, and this is what is getting people messed up a lot as well. Um, about thinking solution based as well. When you've hit a hard time, sometimes the only option you've got is to get creative and think outside of the box. A lot of people haven't ever been at that point. They've never had to think outside of the box. Everything has always come to them. So this is another reason why I wanted to get the information out there, to let people know that there is options. There's been a spike in suicides because people feel like they can't afford to live, which again is something that I find absolutely disgusting, that they're feeling that they have to end their life because they can't afford to live. But people's lives are more important than all the money in the world. And you need to remember that if you are going through a difficult time as well, your life is more important than all the money in the world. So stay with us, and there is a way through it, and there's so much light pouring into the world. This is to educate us, this is to enlighten us, this is to expand our consciousness and make us believe in ourselves and understand how amazing we are and how strong we are, how resilient we are. So it's for us, even though some people are just all they're seeing is darkness, surrounded by darkness. I want to be that little bit of light that gets in to remind them that there's a way through this.
Oh, thank you, Nayalla. Well, you are that little bit of light. You're more than a little bit of light. It's a real pleasure to connect with you. And what is your website address?
Nayalla.com.
Nayalla.com. Okay, great. So people can go there, and I'll put in the links for Amazon and Etsy in the description, and contact information for Nayalla if you want to reach out for you. So, thanks a lot for creating this book, and thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always nice to be on your podcast.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nayalla.